Hi everyone, welcome to Narene's Life with MS. This is Narene and it's time for Friday Findings. And this Friday, today, I found some very interesting stories to share. And, I would, there's some good news, there's some bad news. So hopefully, but of course, going forward, I think, they both highlight certain things that are happening in the field of multiple sclerosis, and as a result lots of you know uh, pretty much the outlook on both the stories that I'm going to share today are that MS is definitely a disease that it does not need to be a problem anytime in the future. And this and when I'm talking about the future, it could be the near future, it could be the far future, but essentially they are there is a very active process looking into ensuring that you know uh, MS is not only treated very effectively but also in some ways prevented at a very early stage. So with that said, let's get started um, with our studies and our article. So the first article that I wanted to talk about was the fact that a few weeks ago, Sanofi, which is one of it's one of the largest pharmaceutical companies based in France, actually was not able to pull in worthwhile results for their BTK inhibitor called Tolebrutinib. Now, Tolebrutinib, I did discuss it yesterday, and not yesterday, but last week, and along with what a BTK inhibitor does. And, this was the trial. I think it was the phase 2 trial, which did not end up meeting sort of the goals that Sanofi had set for itself, right? It wasn't helping. It did not meet its mark in improving patients' lifestyles who were suffering from RMS, nor did it actually hit the mark for patients with PPMS. And as a result, they could not even you know pose positive studies for people with SPMS. So what does that mean? Well, the first thing is, of course, Sanofi is going to try and see what best to progress with Tolebrutinib. And considering and one of the things that does happen is, when you have very large pharmaceutical companies who have created a certain drug and they're putting it to trial, a lot of manpower, a lot of um, money, a lot of time, and of course a lot of a lot of guinea pigs, and that too in not only the form of guinea pigs but also in the form of humans, actually go into testing it to make sure that it actually meets standards for uh, for selling once it gets approved. So as a result, a lot of pharmaceutical companies, after let's say a trial fails, they usually try to see how best they can work to ensure that there are other ways to make sure that this drug works. And one of the major issues with Tolebrutinib ended up being that it was very harmful to the liver, right? Very harmful for the liver functions, and as a result, you know, patients who were testing out tolebrutinib were actually experiencing near fatal instances of liver damage as a result of the medication. Now, this is what has happened with one BTK inhibitor. There are at least three other BTK inhibitors that are currently out there. Um, and I think I would much rather that you read the article so that you can understand the names of each of these other BTK inhibitors. But some of them are actually showing much more promise. One drug that is actually developed by Roche, um, which I believe is a German pharmaceutical company, is in its phase 3 trials. So there are definitely other medications that are getting much further ahead. And especially in terms of BTK inhibitors. And while yes, liver issues and liver damage does still end up being sort of a problem when we are looking at BTK inhibitors, one thing we have to know is that there is a group of patients that are still not yet um, not finding any medication that is working for them, right? So there is a very specific group of patients that are not finding any benefit from using drugs that I might be using or I have used in the past. So as a result, they are pretty much running out of options. But of course, the one thing that this article does share and does state is that despite that, there are even if, let's say, BTK inhibitors overall as a group of medications might not be the most beneficial, there are other forms of treatments that are being researched. There are other forms of treatments that are being developed. There is even talk of remyelination happening, and medications or treatments that are being created for remyelination purposes, so that patients will have the ability to pretty much regenerate a lot of the myelin that they have lost as a result of MS. So that is, one thing that, we can definitely look forward to, and definitely is one of the things that, comes as a positive note, even when we are talking about the failure of, one of what could have been said was one of the more promising leads for a new form or a new family of medications for MS. So please do share your thoughts on this. Please do share your insights. Please do share your um, reviews and of course your experiences. If you have experienced any BTK inhibitor, now they are a new form of medication, but if you were part of the testing, do share your thoughts, do share your experiences, so that we can get the conversation started. But with that said, that was article 1. And now we continue to article number 2. Now article number 2 is very interesting, and I did have a few options to choose from, and I did find that this article was probably one of the most positive articles that I probably have seen, at least today. So here we go. So this article states that there are a team of a team of experts that are actually putting in a framework that is evaluating or looking at preventing multiple sclerosis both at an early age and also at an adult stage. Now, how are they looking at doing that? first of all, there are certain instances, I mean, there has been enough research done with MS where, there are certain things that are already, you know, known, right? The fact that there is a certain link between EBV and MS, there is a certain link that might be related to certain lifestyles that, patients have before developing MS, and there are certain environmental conditions also that might lead to the development of MS. So this team of experts is pretty much designing this framework so that uh, doctors can pretty much not only prevent MS but also ensure very early detection of the disease for for future patients, so that um, there so in the future, if this project actually works, if this undertaking actually goes through, we might see, a new sort of brand of MS patients where, despite having, despite uh, being diagnosed with MS, they are, they have a body functioning near perfectly for a very, very long time. Or even people who already show early signs of MS are able to reverse that and actually pause their MS from developing to a much larger or much higher extent. So this, of course, is great news. I mean, to think that, there is the ability for, uh, us as people to, you know, uh, pretty much prevent or at least make MS, a lot less impactful than it has to be, will definitely make the world a brighter place. And of course, if we look at the fact that MS is just one out of many, many autoimmune diseases that exist, and the same form of framework or a similar framework can be used for other autoimmune conditions, we are looking at a much healthier world in the future. So like with the first article as well, do share your thoughts about this article and do share what your insights, do share your experiences. I mean, what do you think would be, what do you think would be, a much more preferable future um, for us, where we have certain diseases that, if they are um, detected very early on in life, that there is a chance to pretty much prevent them from developing further at any point in time. um, because at least as far as I can see it, and do realize that, I usually just skim the articles. I don't read them as thoroughly as I should. I think this is, definitely a great step to, until we definitely we find a cure for this disease. So yes, do share your thoughts, and of course, thank you so much for listening in to the second article. So after we have reviewed both of these articles, what do you think about each article or either article? Right, I mean, we do have some not so great news, but then on the other side we have something that could prove um, you know world changing in the future. So yes, according to this, do share your thoughts, do share your insights, do share your experiences if you had any experiences with, you know with doing either, in regards to either of the articles that I shared today. Definitely one thing I can say, while I do not have a lot of experience with BTK inhibitors, one thing I can definitely say is, I have experience in the past that, maybe my throat is a little ticklish, that I might be developing a cough or a cold, and taking the preventative measures so that I don't get a full-blown cough or a cold has definitely helped me in more ways than one. So, and this is coming from something that is obviously a lot simpler, it's a lot more basic, but if we can definitely look at the brighter side of all of the work that is going on in this field, um, there is definitely a lot of silver linings. So with that said, do share your thoughts, do share your insights, do share your experiences so that we can get the conversation started. And with that said, this brings an end to our Friday findings. And like always, this is Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and I'm hoping that you have a lot of great things planned for your weekend, considering that it is Friday. And with that said, I just want to wish you a good night, sweet dreams, and I'm going to catch you tomorrow. Bye.